Good morning, everyone, and welcome you all to AABN's 169th weekly webinar. It's heartwarming to see a happy bunch of participants on a Sunday morning. Welcome to you all for responding to our call and being here. AABN began as a fledgling outfit to connect professionals on a proactive platform to exchange useful information and contacts. Also became an informal avenue to meet and listen to game changers from various domains through these interactive sessions. Thanks to the strong work fundamentals, clear goals, and wonderful camaraderie on which this network was built, we grew in leaps and bounds. Over the past 3+ years, we have been able to put together online programs to keep our AABN community not just engaged, but also meet a range of inspiring people who can help shape your ideas and thoughts. Today, we have one such personality, Ms. Purva Bhatt, the cultural architect. I extend a very warm welcome to Ms. Purva for coming here and willing to impart your expertise to our AABN community. Culture is the driving force behind how people in an organization behave and make decisions. The culture within an organization plays a significant role in shaping behavior and attitudes. It has a powerful influence on how employees collaborate and interact. The culture we create in the work environment is much stronger and more relevant in the day-to-day relationship between people. We need to leverage the culture that makes us common, our values, our principles, our established rituals, our way of interacting with one another. Those are the things that we know for sure won't change because they only depend on us and the way we relate to one another. That creates a sense of strength and certainty, which is very strong and can help us find new structures to create the value and achieve the goal we want to achieve. The information and insights shared by a guest speaker are noteworthy, impactful, and relevant to leaders and members of any organization considering a culture change journey. I have the pleasant duty of welcoming and introducing our guest speaker, Purva Bhatt, to this interactive business networking session on It's a Culture Called Leadership and Behavioral Changes. Purva is a culture architect, corporate trainer, executive coach, and professional speaker. Purva is a microbiologist by education and trainer by passion. She's an associate certified coach from the Neuro Leadership. Purva is an organizational culture expert. She helps to reshape companies from within. She crafts strategies that ignite employees' engagement, drive innovation, and create an environment where every individual flourishes. Purva is a seasoned corporate trainer and specializes in programs that cultivate a positive, thriving work culture. She is on a mission to bolster organizations with a psychologically safe and people-centric culture. She has worked closely with 7,000+ corporates and helped them bridge the gap between potential and performance by challenging the self-limiting beliefs and helping them to create a growth mindset. As a business coach, she works with leaders and CXOs to unleash their untapped potential and improve their effectiveness. Drawing from a 250+ hours of coaching experience, she uses neuroscience and brain-based conversation to deliver insights on goal setting, accountability, leadership, performance mastery, and habit transformation. Her motto is, let's embark on a transformative journey to unleash your organization's true potential. Purva's style, her knowledge of the topic, and her ability to engage the audience will ensure that attendees today will walk away with several key takeaways. It will ensure that your attendance at the webinar today was more than worthwhile. I'm not going to make you wait longer. We'll let Purva take over and regale you with their astute experiences and fresh ideas. Thank you, and over to Purva.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, Mr. Gopi, for this introduction. I almost felt like I was getting an award. Okay, as Mr. Gopi said, I am a microbiologist. I have a master's degree in microbiology and a half PhD in biochemistry. Over the years of my journey as a microbiologist and biochemist, I realized one thing, that I was more interested in human behavior than in microbiology. So here I am doing what I'm doing. All right. I have one question. How all of you would feel to talk around 36 people, room full of 36 people. You see there are 36 people in the room, but you are interacting with a black wall. How many of you would love that?
But whether you love it or not, after Corona, this becomes a kind of compromise. I don't think we had so many video calls before 2020. Now this seems to have become order of the day, even to cut down travel or whatever it is. Otherwise, any day face-to-face communication, it's just uncomparable. But if you had come from Delhi all the way to Chennai, we all would have been happy to meet you in a hall.
Thank you. That's a pleasure. Thank you so much. I still feel that even if we are not meeting face to face, this has become a new normal, and it would be great if I can see some faces, some expressions, that whatever I am talking is making some sense, some understanding to some of you. Okay, great. I see some of the videos starting on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. How many of you in the room are working professional? Type in the chat box. How many of you in the room are working professional? And how many of you in the room are entrepreneurs? Awesome. Those whose videos are on, they can raise your hand. And those whose videos are off can type in chat box. Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I have a question here. The first question. Every morning when you go to a work, what is your attitude? Yes, it's Monday, I'm going to work. Or, thank God it's Friday. What's your attitude? Please type in the chat box. What's your attitude? Great. So some of you have a mixed feelings. Some of you are happy that it's Monday and I'm going to work. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to do something meaningful. I'm going to contribute. Mr. Sundar Rajan is saying both are same. Okay, I will get to you over there on both are being same. All right. So this tells me your attitude at your workplace. What caters to this attitude, what brings in this attitude is what we are going to discover through this session. Now, the classic definition of work culture is a set of values, beliefs, rules, and system that is outlined to influence employees' behavior in the organization. I have my own ways of simplifying it. Yes, Rajan, you have a question? You have raised your hand. Do you have a question?
No, ma'am, no.
Okay, okay, thank you. All right. So I have a habit of simplifying things. Our brains generally understand things which are simple. So I have simplified this definition. Employees' motivation, engagement, happiness, and willingness to contribute defines organizational culture. Are you all with me here? Fine. So let's go back to the question. What's your attitude at work? Before we begin this session, let's first understand why is there a need to change organizational culture.
தண்ணி இருக்கு கூட
இல்ல எடுத்த தண்ணி இருக்கா கொஞ்சம் எடுத்துட்டு வரேன் கொடுங்க அதெல்லாம் பத்தாது அது மாத்திரை கவரை கொடுங்க வச்சிருவோம் கையோட குடிச்சாச்சுல.
Thank you. Could you all please mute yourselves unless you have questions to ask? Thank you. Okay. So I was talking about why is there a need to change organizational culture at first place? And how do we create a sustainable organization change? We will talk about it with a couple of examples, but the basic idea is even if we initiate a change, how sustainable is it? And how do we make sure as leaders, as employees, that the cultural change that we are talking about, that we are expecting to have a sustainability? Now imagine the CEO of the organization calls for a meeting. Some 50, 100 leaders in the room. And they come up with the excellent ideas of bringing in the change in the organization, a new initiative. And these leaders go to their people and talk about this new initiative being rolled out. What happens here? A couple of things. The first expression of some of the employees is, oh, one more initiative. Not again. People at the top come up with the excellent initiatives, but they forget that the initiative is going to be embraced by their people. And so you see, or we see, some kind of resistance somewhere. Do we see the resistance when any change is being initiated? Okay. So do we actually resist the change? Do we actually resist the change? Well, I personally don't think that we resist the change. I tell you how. If I come to your desk and I tell you that your salary will be double tomorrow, from tomorrow onwards, your salary will be doubled, your life will be changing. Would you resist that? Would you say, oh, no, it's okay. I don't want a hike in the salary? Do we actually resist the change? We don't. What we do resist is when we are putting consistently efforts and hard work in something and we don't see the result. We are in the era of instant gratification. So when the change or initiative doesn't take place or it doesn't become visible, we resist it. Yes, absolutely. Not all the times we accept either due to force or compulsion at times. But my question is, if your salary is doubled overnight, would you resist it? Okay. So, oftentimes people are not excited to go to work. I am a keen observer of Simon Sinek. How many of you know this name, Simon Sinek? I am a keen observer of Simon Sinek. He shares an incident of his experience in one of the hotels in Las Vegas. He stayed at Four Seasons. At Four Seasons, he says that he loved to stay there. Not because they had comfortable bed or delicious food. Any hotel can do that. But it's because of the experience. In the main lobby, there is a coffee bar. When Simon walks into the coffee shop to buy a cup of coffee, he meets Noah. Noah is wonderful. He is excited to be at work. He was engaging. And so, out of curiosity, Simon asked him, do you like your job? Without skipping a bit, Noah says, I love my job. Intrigued, Simon asked him again, what is it here at Four Seasons that makes you be in love with your job? He says, every time any manager who walks asks me, how was I doing? Do I need any help to make my job better? Not just my manager, but any manager. And he shares his experience of his previous job, where he works with Preston's, another five-star hotel. He said, over there, I had the experience. Every manager would make sure that we are doing things right. They kept us under a radar. They will catch us doing something wrong and fire us. So every day I will go to work, put my head down. I go through the day because I was getting a paycheck eventually. This also tells us about the culture of this organization, the culture of Four Seasons. The right culture creates Noah in the Four Seasons. The wrong culture creates Noah of the Preston Hotel. Yes. So bringing up the change in the mindset of employees to create the workforce which is motivated and excited, we need a shift in the culture, the ambience, the environment, the ideal workspace. And that is, my friends, the need to bring in the change in the culture. When we see disengagements of the employee, it's the time for us to have a check on our culture. Similarly, okay, performance with a purpose should be the organizational objective. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And ironically, not many organizations understand that. And when they don't understand, people become complacent. They do what they are asked to do, not taking initiatives, not thinking creative. They come for a paycheck and bonuses. And that is why I have been telling that is the time we need a cultural change. What happens, you have then created the organization which is successful. It is successful because people are motivated, engaged, trying to contribute to the larger purpose of the organization. So there are multidimensional growth. Growth in revenue, growth in people's career, growth in organization, multidimensional growth. That is what we are talking about. Now, to explain this, I want to talk about the Google experience. Mr. Gopi, do I have the rights to share my screen?
Yes, yes, you have.
Okay. All right, so let's take the example. I'm sorry, I'm somehow not being able to move my slides. Okay. Is my slides visible?
Visible, but you have to make it full
Please
screen.
put it in slideshow mode, please.
Okay. Okay, is this okay now?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, yes, perfect.
All right. So what was the uproar about Google? How many of you have heard about the massive walk off from Google? On November 1st, 2018, 20,000 employees walked off from Google in protest of unfair and unequal treatment towards women. This was a massive movement. It was dramatic and it grabbed several headlines. Because we are talking about one of the most successful organizations. Until this particular event, 80% of the Google employees said they were supposedly happy at work. In 2023 recession, 12,000 employees were laid off from Google with just a cold email. The people still with Google were not sure if they were next. This made me think about the culture and leadership at one of the most reputed organizations. By the look of it, the people who are working with Google, they are in the congruence of the brand. They take a great pride in working with Google. But in spite of this, there was this protest. Similar protest happened with Infosys. One of the effects of such psychologically unsafe culture is invisible walkouts from heart and mind. When this invisible walkout happens, people start to not care. People feel psychologically unsafe and unvalued. They protest quietly, sometimes subconsciously. It is called active disengagement. Now the question is, how can we avoid this? So the first step to avoid it is, how do I change the slides from here? Can somebody please help me?
If it is a PPT, you can push the up or down arrow. If it is a PPT.
It is a PPT, but no, it's not working that way.
The left and right arrow.
No, that is not working as well.
You can click on the screen with the mouse.
Okay. So the first way of doing this is unblock communication. Thank you, Mr. Shah. Walkouts happen when people think they are not being heard. They are not being valued. They are not being considered. And their ideas are being shot in the workplace. Some time ago, when I was working with an organization, I invited one of my colleagues to share her thoughts about the problem that we were working on. We stood in an awkward silence for some time. After a pause, she told me she was never asked what she thought in the organization. That was petrifying. We should never block communication. Instead, we should continuously invite communication. We need to be asking questions, inviting questions, fostering creative conflicts, and invite inputs. When we do that, we are laying a strong foundation. A strong foundation when there are things to be told, to be heard to the management. It's like a bitter medicine to be swallowed by the management. Now let's go back to
Purva, I would like to add something here, unblock communication.
I'm
In
sorry.
fact, I would like to add something here.
Yes, please, please.
Unblocking communication is fine. I believe that we should also encourage a dissent being expressed, because everything is good, everything is nice. We don't need people for that. we want people to challenge whatever we are doing, of course, in a very positive environment, not in a fighting mode. That is a kind of culture development is also equally important. Expression of dissent. We also want to hear the devil of advocates. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that, sir. All right. So now let's talk about Sundar Pichai's response. By the amount of the movement, the intensity of the process, Sundar Pichai responded. He had choices. He had two choices, whether to close the doors to the people who were aligned to the values of the organization, or he could choose to open it wider. Sundar Pichai's response was not defensive. He said, I understand the anger and disappointment that many of you are feeling. I feel it too. And I am fully committed in making progress on issues that has persisted for far too long in our society, and yes, here at Google too. Leaders have to proactively encourage open communication. They need to ask questions like, what are we not talking that we should be talking? By asking the question, you are signaling openness. People feel the sense of belonging. And this brings me to the second point. If the communication alone sufficient, probably not. The second point is we need to be responsive, because we know that it's not enough to only listen and not acting. Words without actions bring cynicism. The Google walkout was not the first resort. It was the last one. The employees might have gone to management and the HR and explained them their situation. This was the escalation because they felt no action is being taken or sufficient action is not being taken. The issue is not being addressed. While Sundar Pichai's response was supportive and a good one, a lot of people are still protesting because they feel that sufficient action was not taken. In the fragile movement like this, we discover the kind of culture we will have.
Hi, Purva. Just one question.
Yes, please.
What was the real issue? Is it a gender issue? Is it a protest by female employees?
Yes, it was unfair and unequal treatment towards women. Some of them also complained about the harassment at workplace.
Okay. Thank you.
You're most welcome. So in these fragile moments, we will determine what kind of culture will we have. We will have the culture of debates and dialogues, or will we have the culture that nurture relationships? What would you prefer? So, unblocking the communication, being responsive, and all this brings into the point of the way everything, all the protests, all the mishaps that are happening in any organization boils down to one point: the leadership of the organization. Leaders play a major role in organization. Now, we want to understand what kind of leadership are we talking about. Since we have taken the Google's example, it reminds me a quote by Peter Drucker. He says, only 3 things happens naturally in any organization: friction first, confusion, and underperformance. For everything else, we need leadership. So again, what kind of leadership? The heroic kind of leadership? Let's do a little thought experiment before we deep dive into this. I want all of you to close your eyes for 10 seconds and think about the best leader you have worked with. What did he or she did or said that made a lot of difference in the way you worked, you showed up at the workplace? Done? All of us have a hero, a leader who we look up to. The leader's role is to create leaders, not to create followers. You do not want a leader who continuously keeps on telling you what to do, what not to do. Possibly, yes, when it's a beginning of your tenure or it's a beginning of your journey with that particular organization. But what kind of leadership? Just a disclaimer, we are not here to discuss which leadership style is better. We are here to discuss what kind of leadership is effective in bringing about cultural change. Okay, so I am taking examples of two leaders who I have closely observed. The first one is Mr. Siddharth Bhatt. In pandemic, when the work from home became normal, I happened to observe him closely. He had a unique working style. He would ask his people questions like, when should we expect this done? What is the resources that you need? How can I help you? Do you have any better idea to do this? That is a coaching style of leadership. And the result was he could create the team which delivered results again and again and again. Even under the pressure, the team is accountable, the team is motivated, the team wanted to contribute. And the second one is Mr. Yagnesh Trivedi. Recently, his organization went through the turbulence of merger and acquisition. But Yagnesh preferred a grit. He practices a catalyst style of leadership. The catalyst style of leadership is about a cumulative growth of a person, the team, the organization at large. He allows to experiment, explore, and he never indulges into micromanagement. Imagine working with these leaders. Every leader, of course, has a different style of leading. Mr. Ratan Tata had very different style of leading than Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani. But the style of leading also comes through the organizational culture. Every leader adopts a style of leadership based upon the values, vision, and mission of the organization, which broadly creates the organizational culture. Leaders developed other leaders. They empower them, they create the sense of belonging, and help them achieve their professional and personal goals. When this happens, everyone in organization feels valued, psychologically safe. It's a cue that a human brain constantly needs, that you are psychologically safe. because we are evolved in such a way that the brain only knows the expression of fear, that understands the emotion of fears. So it is not seldom that a leader goes and talks to people and make sure they feel psychologically safe. There has to be a continuous cue that you are psychologically safe in this organization. People now acknowledge the possibility of their career advancement also when there is a psychologically safe environment. Leadership enriched culture develop and cultivate leaders. These leaders keep their egos in their pockets. It's a very different from the ancient style of leadership when we understood only one way of leadership, that is dictatorship. A dictatorship only created followers. Leadership enriched culture creates leader. And then when you create more leaders, people take charge. They take initiatives. They do not need you around constantly being a helicopter leader. This brings in openness, so much so that even a janitor who cleans the washroom, comes to you and tells you, I have this idea. I think that can help you. That is the culture of openness. When you have the leadership enriched culture, you create openness, sense of belonging, and psychological safety. But once we get into the role of leadership, we have a reservoir with reality. A leader's role to create culture is more like parenting. According to me, the best practice of leadership is to empower your team, hold them accountability, inculcate the sense of ownership. Now you can assign the responsibility, hold people and yourself accountable, but ownership cannot be assigned. Ownership cannot be delegated. As a leader, it's your responsibility to create the environment where people want to take ownership. A couple of days back, I was reading a book by the name of Management Nirvana. There is a beautiful incident mentioned over there when we talk about the culture of empowering people. Marty, who is the founder of the organization, they were dealing in the business of generators. They were not selling so many generators because the lack of good content for them to market. They hired an executive by the name of Kelly. Kelly had a master's degree in historical art and was enthusiastic learner of animations. Kelly came up with the idea. We are talking about 90s. Kelly came up with the ideas of creating a website which will sell the generators online. Remember, this is 90 eras when internet was just a buzzword. Not a lot many people know thing about internet. Initially, there was resistance. People did not believe in Kelly's idea, but Kelly was persistent. She told her boss that all I need is 30 days and a server. I can code a system, I can create a website, and I can show you that we can sell generators through a website. She was persistent. Eventually, when she saw that there was a lot of resistance, she went to her boss and banged his table, saying, I showed all the research, I did all the hard work. What else do you want? Put me in, coach. And in that moment, Marty decided to give it a shot. In 30 days, Kelly created a website. And they sold first generator overnight. That was exciting. It took both Kelly's belief in herself and her idea and Marty's empowering leadership to make it happen. Empowerment is not a one-way street. Team members want to embody that they are empowered, the mindset of empowered. And leaders have to create the environment that allow people to step into being fully empowered. This is what I meant by saying leadership enrich culture, develop and create leaders. Any questions so far? So empowering leaders, creating new leaders, irrespective of the title, the leadership in mind. And when they work together for the larger objective of the organization, the leaders will create psychologically safe culture where people feel belong, they thrive, they are willing to contribute. So let's create a better culture by unblocking communication, by being responsive, harnessing in the energy, by aiming high. So next time, when someone asks you to think about the best leaders they have worked with, I hope they think about you. Another point to understand here is, how do people contribute into the organizational culture or organizational change? Should it only be a leader's responsibility? Would it work that way? Has it ever worked that way? What should be the approach to bring in the change in organizational culture? Should it be top to bottom, starting from the leaders and going down to the people, or from bottom to up, starting from the employees and going up to the leaders? What could be the best way? What could be the best way according to you? Say some 5 or 12 people at the top come up with the idea, share with, and trying to convince some thousands of employees to believe and think what they think and believe. Or does it work other way around? That some 1,000 people come up with some ideas and try to convince some 5 or 12 people at the top about the change, about what they want in the organizational culture. It should be bottom up. The bottom up initiative works in a way that creates wonder. Leaders' role is to provide the ambience, the environment for people to come forward and share their ideas. But the problem is the organizations don't trust people enough. Whatever style of leadership is practiced, ultimately it's about people. The people at bottom, the people at middle, people all around, the people who are facing customers, the people who are interacting, the people who are getting the job done, the people who are facing the problems, the people who are solving the problems, the people who come up with the solution. They have a solution-focused culture. They have the solution-focused ideology. They like to be a part of solution than being a part of problem. But they often do not have the voice. And so, as a leader, when you bring it from bottom up, you start seeing the results. That's when the things start to change. Now that leads to another question. How leaders make sure of bottom-up initiative? There are some thousands of employees. It's by asking a simple question. What is the ideal work environment for you? Now, you may think it is a difficult task, it is a tedious task, but let me tell you a research. This question was asked to employees of 54 organizations. And more or less, the response was same. Irrespective of their positions, the gender, kind of degree they held, the kind of education they have had. Same kind of question. The ideal work environment should have trust. Now, trust is always the highest rated parameter in any organization that thrives. A high trusting organization have a higher degree of innovation, growth, ideas. They feel safe when they trust each other or when they feel trusted. Second is teamwork. Third is supportive environment. Fourth is clarity of a structure that helps them to understand what I need to achieve. And finally, some fun. One of the influencers that I follow makes sure that every employee of her organization has a mandatory week break. And this week break is sponsored by the organization. Imagine working with such an organization. You are entitled to have a break. You are forced to have a break, have fun for yourself, make balance between work and life, prioritize your mental health. Imagine working with such organization. The name of this organization is Student Made. And the founder of this organization is Miss Christine Hadid. When people believe they could achieve this ideal work culture, it becomes a greater purpose for employees, and hence a greater purpose for the organization. It is for you, it is for your team, and it is for the organization at large. And how can you create the ideal work culture, the ideal work environment? Of course, it is a collaborative effort from both employees and leaders. But as we discussed, how to create the ideal work environment. A communication without conflict. Provide supportive environment that foster trust, have a unified identity. What do we mean by unified identity? In some organization, we have seen people are wearing similar kind of uniforms at work. For example, Mr. Ratan Tata wore the same uniform as his employees when he was at the plant. It indicates the trust. It indicates the equality. And so people are motivated. People are excited to work. It's like a club. We listen to names of lot of clubs like Rotary Club, like Lions Club. A club has a name, a vision, a purpose. It's like a club, creating a club which has a shared vision, shared purpose. And those people who are not a part of this club are obviously resisting the change. What do you do then? You can either ignore them or help them to get into the club. Finally, you measure. You measure the behavior. The behavior when we started creating this change and the behavior that brought about the change. Measure the behavior that people created for themselves, their guiding principles in order to achieve the ideal work environment. Give instant feedback that this behavior has a positive impact. You do not want to wait for the annual review to appreciate a good behavior. Go and do it right away. Measure behaviors and not the KPIs. It's the behavior that results into KPIs. Bringing a cultural change is a combined responsibility of people and leader. It's not a task that we can delegate. So tomorrow, when you go to work, I want you to think, how you contribute to create the ideal workplace? How you contribute to just making people feel that they are valued in your organization. Thank you.
I want to add something here.
Yes,
When
please.
when we talk about leaders carrying the team along with them to bring the cultural changes, I think leader also has to make the team to understand what kind of benefits the individuals and the organization is going to get when the cultural change happens. As you rightly said in the beginning, there may be reluctance or resistance for some of the changes. But then when people are made to understand what is there in for me by going through the struggle and by changing certain my own way of working, what kind of benefit I'm going to get? I mean, it does not have to be something like a negotiation thing, but I think people must be made to understand how does it help the organization and also the individuals. That is one. And another thing what I thought is the leader should follow what he preaches, he or she preaches. It cannot be some sermonizing and then doing something else. People always look for the leader, whether the leader is an example or the leader is only a preacher. These are the 2 points I wanted to add.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Absolutely. That's why I mentioned that organizations need to trust the people. That is how when you unblock the communication, people understand the communication is always both the way. That is how people understand what is in for me.
Thank you very much for that wonderful session, Purva. We'll keep the floor open for question and answers now. Yeah. So participants, you may please unmute and ask your questions.
Okay, Purva ma'am, thank you for your lovely deliberation. Am I audible, by the way?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Thank you, Gopi sir, for this opportunity to bring Purva ma'am to us. Just now I heard Stalin sir's question and the way Purva ma'am also explained about trust. Now, since I teach a subject called International Business and International Relation, I still think the way it is conceived that what is there for me is very culture specific. What I want to say is values are more important than valuables. So in different culture, the concept of value and valuables are different. If we check Indians, the educated Indians thinks that what is there for me is not only of monetary gain, it is also something beyond that. Then if you go to the European or the Western culture, we always know that there is a difference between masculine culture and feminine culture. There are differences between the power distances. So, Purva ma'am, what I request you to give some insights, and along with that, I find Stalin sir, Jayesh sir, and others here, that when we talk about culture-specific orientation, when we are building up an organization which is going cross-cultural, how should the organizational culture be developed? Because you have so many heterogeneity in developing cultures of the organization. Say I start a startup and I scale it up in different cultures. I go ahead in developing my organization in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, in Gulf, Sharjah and Dubai, and somewhere might be in European countries. So what happens when I am thinking of developing a unified organization culture? It doesn't happen. So there is ethnocentric, polycentric, geocentric, and regiocentric cultures. So how you address that problem, that when you have grown enough, how you will address different cultures? Over to the people out there.
Okay. The fundamental of creating a particular culture is based on the values of the organization. The values do not change even if you go to Sri Lanka or India or in Europe. We believe in the things that we talk about, the values that we have, the integrity of the values that we practice. So the values don't change with the geographical region. That is how you create a unified culture. The basis of creating any culture is the organizational value.
I have a different take on this. What is valued, the time value which is valued in India, Indian Standard Time is not same in Germany or elsewhere. We sometimes reach at meetings late, just the way I reached today. So I reached at least 15 to 20 minutes late, if not more, because I was preoccupied with certain things and I lost the chance to hear you right from the beginning. So might be if it is a German get-together or a German networking, I wouldn't have been allowed to join. But since I joined and whatever I picked up is very valuable to me. But the values which you are talking about is again very culture specific. So if you see Tata, the way they adapt to different cultures is also there, but the core principle remains same. I fully agree. But what happens is you have to customize it according to the culture where you go. And that is something which many companies have done to scale their business up, whether it is product orientation, service orientation, or combination of both. So I don't know whether I am getting it clearer for you all, but what I have found is cultures always adapts to the culture where they want to do business, whether it is organization culture or the culture of an individual also. So the food habits is a part of culture, dress is a part of culture. So when we go to other cultures, we adapt to their culture. See, I was in Vellore, Tamil Nadu, and Gopi sir knows it, that Koncham Koncham Tamil Pesriva, when I talk in Tamil language, they feel good. Even if I don't know Tamil, I will try to use 2 or 3 lines and they will feel good. So this is a part of culture to prove my oneness with them. So this is very important, I think, that the way things should be seen in this perspective. So it's not only the trust, it's in holistic perspective.
No,
That's
I'm
my
not saying it's only the trust, sir. What I'm saying is the basic principles and the values on which the foundation is being laid of the organization. The very foundation. For example, you rightly said, had you been in German association, you possibly would not have been allowed in the meeting. But that practice happens when you go to Germany. You don't mind being a bit late in India because we follow the Indian Standard Time. It is the leverage that a person wants to take when he or she goes to different country, different culture. Yes, you rightly said the adaptability point. It's not only about the trust. It's also about the underlying values and principles on which the organization was founded. That remains same throughout the cultures. Yes, some adaptations here and there, it does happen, and it is likely to happen. We cannot have a strong, stringent belief that this is what worked for me, so it should work for the organization. Or this is what worked in India, so would it work in Europe? No, there has to be adaptations. But the underlying principles have to be same on which the organization was founded, is what I
Yes,
was trying
I'll
to
take a minute just to wrap it up. We agreed to agree, not disagreed to disagree. But the thing is that disagreed to agree. But one thing for sure, I and one of my team members, we were there on a tour in Europe. And when we were about to clinch a deal with a European counterpart on a particular product and service, my counterpart, who is, I'll not take the community's name and all those, when I asked him that let's celebrate with the party that we finally clinched the deal, he told, I will not sign the dotted line. I told, why? He told that they invited to our house, and I found that he is not married to a lady, but the lady he is staying is live together, and they have a kid from it. So I am totally against this. So he actually didn't sign that deal because his Indian culture prevented him to do this. And this is sometimes a bottleneck even, but we stay with whatever individual beliefs we have and we have grown up with. So this is my final take on this. And we have to be global citizens than merely only citizen of a country, because now it is what is called LPG, liberalization, privatization, and finally the word is globalization. So that's my take. Thank you for such lovely inputs.
Thank you so much for your thoughts, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, participants, you may please unmute and ask your questions, please.
Good morning, ma'am. This is Srihari here.
Yes, good morning, Shrihari.
So I have one query. Now, as you would also be aware, there's been a spate of layoffs across a gamut of organizations. In such a scenario, how does an organization gain trust with its workforce? Because on one hand, layoffs are happening, and that's a fact. With such a scenario, keeping employees motivated is actually a challenge. And how does one go about doing it?
Okay, so I firmly believe that layoff should be done with utmost compassion. First thing. Secondly, the people who are with the organization, who are left with the organization, have to believe that the organization itself has a strong belief in their core values. And the layoffs will happen on the merit. And still, it has to be with the utmost compassion. There have to be the reasons, valid reasons. And then there has to be the compensation around the layoffs. Then possibly the person who is, for example, let me give you one example. I talked about Yagnesh Trivedi. His organization is Idea. When the merger between Idea and Vodafone happened, some 10,000, 12,000 people were laid off. And I asked him that, how did you deal with these layoffs? He said, the people were taken care enough. They were given 3 months salary, medicine allowances, a year advance of medicines allowance, and a promise to develop a workforce that will help them in their career advancement. The career advancement program is still running with Idea Vodafone. This is what I meant by compassion. And when this happened, when the employees know that organization will stick to its value, no matter what, however tough time it is, the organization gains the trust of the employees. And trust is also a two-way street.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
I hope I made sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you so
thank you
much.
so much. Thank you.
Purva ma'am, this is Jay Shah here.
Yes, Mr. Shah.
Ours is an organization which has been in existence since a long time, almost half a decade. And it is still an SSI, it is a small scale enterprise. And our workforce is 20. And the culture has evolved on its own. So, as you mentioned, measuring the behavior, or so how can we set culture now, or how can we measure behavior? It's a small organization. It may be easy for me, but I am not doing it. We do not even have an HR department.
Okay. Sir, the easiest way to do is go and check out Culture Index. It's available online. You can measure the behavior. All your employees can do that, measure their behaviors, or you can take a 360 assessment with the people giving feedback to their bosses, their peers, and to themselves. These
Right.
are the two ways you can measure the behaviors of the people. Also, there is one beautiful way of doing it. I called it FBI, feeling, behavior, and impact. Let's not wait for the annual reviews. When I do something right, a person next to me comes and tells me, this is my feeling about your behavior, and it has made me feel, it has impacted on my day, on my work, or it has helped me reduce the friction with my customer. I called it FBI, feelings. This is how I feel because of the behavior, and this is the impact.
Wonderful. And it should work both the ways. I mean, if it is
Of course,
positive,
of course,
negative.
it has to be working both the ways. Leaders should also willing to listen to the FBI from the employees.
And again, and it will be for negative as well as positive.
Absolutely, yes. For example, you have a problem with me coming late. Right. So couple of times, if I have been late at work, you come to me and tell me, Purva, I have an FBI for you.
Right. Okay.
I am feeling that my time is not being valued because you are committing and not coming on time. And it is impacting on my trust on you, that you are never on time.
Wonderful. Right. Understood. Thank you. Thank you, Purva.
Purva ma'am, sorry, I have
Yes.
to come back again. You told about FBI is waiting for me. And another thing is, you told something available online. So
Yes.
at the very beginning, what is that? Come again?
That is Culture Index.
Oh, right. Culture Index.
Yes. That's an assessment tool which helps you to understand the behavior of your organization and how can you scale up the behavior or scale down the behavior.
Right. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Yeah. Madam, one question.
Yes, please.
Yes, now the leader has to spend a lot of time with the employees, organization, then only he can change the culture of the organization. But unfortunately, leaders are not given enough time in a particular organization to spend to change the culture where what he wants to change it. But fortunately, I had an opportunity to work in the same organization for 25 years. Therefore, I feel the organization leader has to spend a lot of time with the people to get that confidence, to go for the freedom to given to them and recognizing their work, and ultimately he should be able to touch the heart of the people. That is a very important, but that cannot happen within a day or two. It takes a lot of time. That time the leader has to spend with a particular organization employees. But unfortunately, in the Indian situation, this is not allowed. Leader will be changed within 3 years, 4 years, like that. That 3-4 years is not enough to change the culture of organization, what he wants to do. That's all I want.
Absolutely, sir. And that is why I talked about leadership enriched culture where leader create leaders. So then when a leader of the same ideology has been created, the other, it may not be in the terms of position, but it can be a leadership in your mind, and then you become responsible for the wellness of your peers, of your team members, and collaborate in such a way that you take the ownership. That is how leaders create leaders, and that is how it is important for us to create the pool of leaders. Imagine the entire community, entire organization is full of leaders.
Thank you.
The kind of culture we will have, the lot of accountability we will create, a lot of ownership we will create, and everybody is excited that I am going to contribute to something, to a larger purpose.
It's also very important to monitor the cultural change in organization over a period of time.
I beg your pardon, sir. I
It
could
should
not hear your
be
question. There was a disturbance in your voice.
surprise to the leader. The cultural change will take slowly and steady.
I'm sorry, sir. I
Pardon?
could not hear. There was a disturbance in your voice. It was echoing. I couldn't hear your input.
Yeah. Now let me tell like this. Cultural change in an organization, it has to be monitored and it should be controlled so that the leader should not find any surprise for any cultural change in an organization. And this process is very important in all organizations. I don't think this type of monitoring system is available to find out what is the cultural changes taking place in an organization and how to monitor it and how to control it and how to achieve the target.
I did not get the question. Was that a question or it was an input? I'm sorry, sir.
This be in changing mode. It is not a static.
Sir,
Aruldas,
please type your
Aruldas,
question in the chat box. There is some disturbances. I cannot hear you at all.
Mr.
Aruldas,
you can try
Aruldas,
to
your
switch off your
bandwidth,
video.
Aruldas, your bandwidth is low. You can cut off video and then ask.
Now, are you?
No, sir. Still not
No, there is some
audible, sir.
disturbance.
Please,
Okay,
please
fine.
write
I
in the
will,
chat box then. Yeah.
I will come back to
Sir can post the question in the chat box, no? Ma'am can
Yes,
see
yes,
in the
that's
chat
what-
box and reply.
Yes, that's what I suggested. Please put your question in the chat box.
I think it was more of an observation or a comment. That's what I felt.
Can we have Miss Fowler Amba from Lagos to say a few words? Miss Fowler?
Yes, good morning so much. Sorry, Mrs. Krishna told me about this a little later. I forgot that there was Indian time. I've certainly learned a lot, but my contribution is that I think India and Nigeria share very similar things when it comes to work, but you have been lucky in the sense that a lot of resources have been put into education, and that has shifted the soft skills aspect of an individual. I read a lot about Carol Dweck, who is a professor at Stanford, about mindset. And the speaker has said such wonderful things. And what I took from it is building the culture. But it's very difficult when people still have a fixed mindset. So some of these things, take gradual steps, because you find very few people that have a growth mindset in certain cultures. And one of the things that we have done to improve our system is that we're beginning to identify the issues, and we're getting clearer as to how we identify the problem and the areas of improvement. We're setting visions. We're building a coalition. I'll give you an example. Mrs. Krishna and I are very similar in the way that we think, and we always feel like a minority. But we're learning that it takes time, and we need to build a coalition within our ecosystem. And we try and involve people, we try and empower people. Leading by example is very, very important. Celebrating successes. And we've also learned to be very patient. These advice, or what the speaker has given us, if you're not patient, you can give up. So we've learned to be extremely patient. And what we've also done is that, I like what the speaker said, is that you can build your value system within your organization. And how we have done that is that continuous learning. We're building a ecosystem of continuous learning. One of the things that we're doing now is Mrs. Krishna, as the head teacher, every day for 30 minutes, we are training so that we build that culture. And I learned something new today about the FBI, which I'm going to implement. And I think that that's something that we do not do, because sometimes culturally, we don't want to give people feedback. But if we want to be global, it is important that we take away culture and we work on the FBIs and the 360s. Those are very, very important. And it's just to continuously evaluate and adjust the way you run your business. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Paula. Purva, would you like to add something to that?
No, I think that's a great input. Yes, continuous learning is one thing that every organization should adapt. It only adds value to the skill set, your goals, and organizational growth in large.
Can I please give a small input? Because
Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I worked with Nigerians, and UNIDO had a program for the Mano River countries. And in Aruba, we had few of our students in VIT University, Vellore. Nigerians are very well known in Calcutta for their football skills. And there are a lot of footballers in Calcutta Maidan who are playing football here. Now, one thing I have seen among the Nigerians is they always, I don't know why, they always think that they are having resource crunch as far as education, as far as intellectual prowess is concerned. I don't know why. This is not a statement which I am making out of blue. It's an average feeling, but it's one of the most natural resource abundant country too. And another important thing is, what I found is wherever there is a lot of poverty in the world, I have found that people have taken a lot of shortcut routes to become rich. Now, in Nigeria, when they come in India, they follow the rule of the land there. But in Nigeria, what I have found, this is not to demean anybody. I am just telling you that we had very tough time in dealing with some of the Nigerian importers, because they had issues with timeliness of payments. So how this can be, this is a challenge. And as far as when we are discussing about business, about cross culture, I want to put it in proper perspective. The way Fowler Amma, she told that she seems to be well equipped with knowledge. But what happens when a country like even India, where a lot of people are not that highly educated in rural India. In Bangladesh, I have found people always take a roundabout route, and some of the countries really ranks very low in Transparency International report. So the corruption index is pretty low. So these we sometimes have to address, how we can make a culture of an organization which is having zero tolerance for this type of corruption or under table dealings. Sorry if I have hurt anybody, but I am talking from my heart, because I and the Nigerians, I have always felt oneness, and we develop businesses together. The people who are very well equipped with knowledge in Nigeria, they have been very good resources. But in general, I found that there are some discrepancies. Sorry if I have hurt anybody, but this is a scenario which I wanted to bring in. Sorry.
I don't think you've hurt anybody. Realities are realities. However,
Okay.
you have to remember that Nigeria has a population of 200 million, and we do not celebrate those people who are positive, because the mindset is all about wealth. So there are many people doing significant things in Nigeria we do not celebrate. I'll give you an example. In our ecosystem, which Mrs. Krishna is part of, we have a class now who are graduating. Out of the class, 3 of our students have received full scholarships to attend school in the UK to do A-levels, because we don't celebrate those things. We celebrate corruption. So they're phenomenal people who are doing things. And then I want to say something, that whether it's in India or is in Nigeria, we are the government. We cannot look to the government as what our branding is. We have to make sure as business owners, as individuals, we are influential, we're impactful in the way we change the mindset. Because really, research has shown that you're the average. If you have 5 friends, you're the average of those 5 people. So it's a matter of us influencing as many people as possible. Because I went to school in Nigeria for my elementary school, and there was something in the curriculum that is not there now. I don't know if it's in India. It was a holistic education that stressed integrity, that stressed soft skills. Unfortunately, our educational curriculum has not been updated since 1969. So we're living in a world where we're still living in a curriculum from 1969, which does not see education as holistic. So you're not offending anybody. We have to have these conversations so that we can empower people. For instance, you have said you have a connection with Nigeria. What you can do in your small space is to mentor those Nigerians in your space so they can mentor other people. The speaker talked about taking ownership. We all, as business owners, as leaders, we have to take ownership so we can change the value system in the workplace. So I hope that helps.
Great, thank you. And Amma, I'll tell you one thing. In the last Sunday, I was a speaker here. I was talking about design thinking, and I am really mentoring a lot of people in African nations to start up their businesses. So might be this forum will be a great place to network among us also. Thank you for your inputs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Desh, you're trying to say something? Manivanan sir, Suresh sir.
Gopi sir, this is for Amba. I have given my email ID in the chat box.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So let's connect. The best time is always now. I'll give further more details. You can check it.
Yeah, anyone else has a question? You may please unmute and ask, please. Shivaraman. Krishnan ma'am.
Yeah, I think, thank you so much for this opportunity, but I think my Mrs. Amba has already spoken a lot of things that we do in our organization. It has been really mind-blowing for me. The opening, statements about the 4 Points restaurant, where everybody who's meeting anyone, especially at the manager level, you're talking to every employee, even if they're not your direct reportees. Asking them, how are you doing today? Is there anything I can do to help? That can change the culture a lot. Yes, without us being condescending or seeming to look down on anybody, just asking if they're doing okay. Thank you so much for that insight, Ms. Purva.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Anyone else has a question, you may please unmute and ask. One last question we can take. We can request Purva to take one last question. Okay, I think we are done. Thank you, Purva. Thank you very much for joining on Sunday morning to be with us and share your knowledge. We are very thankful to you for having taken a time out on a Sunday morning to be with us. We'll stay connected. We'll see how to work together. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Purva.
Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.